self-edited. Any Django tunes, but it's his birthday. He was born in 1910 on this day. I'm gonna probably do an Instagram post. I moved the camera so that I'm looking more at it because I had it away from the video monitor, although I could move that over there. I don't know. Anyway. So just experimenting with, that's why I was a little late. I was experimenting with different positions of the camera. So wasn't great. Hey, so let's see who we have. We have Sam and Bob and good to see you. What's up? John, good to see you. I was at the dentist on, when was that? Friday. Just got my teeth cleaned. He's still kind of, I mean, I don't have any issues, so I think he wants to do not a root canal, but we've talked about this. He wants to do a crown, and I'm not quite there yet. I'm going to move the camera up just a little bit, sorry. Just see if I get more of my head in there, less of my crotch. I want this to stay PG-13. Let's see. Charlie B, good morning. Joseph, good to see you. So everybody's saying hey to each other. We're going to keep talking about chord embellishments. I think I left the cage thing up there. I may keep kind of talking about how to incorporate caged method thinking into chord embellishments. Or actually you can extrapolate or extract riffs using cage. So if you have, for example, say you're playing a D chord and you really like going, okay, well technically a caged method extraction, or a caged, that's not a term, don't worry, caged method way of thinking about that is, you know, you've got this D shape, it's a D chord, but it's a D shape, and you're doing that little lick on it. Well, if I want to go, if I take that D, E, F, G, I might do, my hands were warmed up. So right there, what you did was you took a lick that you played in D, a fairly common lick that you might use in D, and you've used the caged method to move it up and down the fretboard so you can use it in any key. Now, it'll require a major set of refingering. But it's a really cool lick down here. Why wouldn't it be cool up and down the neck? So if you're playing over a G chord, you're gonna have to figure out a way to finger some of these things because you're having to compensate for the lack of open strings. But that is, again, there were a couple people confused or like struggling with understanding the caged method. And I get that because there's so many people talk about it and they don't really, you know, explain it maybe a way you can understand it. And like I've said 1,000 times before, is, you know, 5 ways people learn. And I kind of tend to explain things a couple, 3, 4 different ways. And for me, the best way to learn is just to try things out. So that is what you can do if you want on the if you're not quite understanding cage method, you can just experiment. All right. I think of the song "Wishing You Were Here" by Chicago. Is something like that, and all they did was they took a D shape up and down. I think about kind of that's everybody kind of one of the first things they just discover, usually on their own, no teacher shows it to them, is that kind of Spanish sound when you take an E chord and move it up a fret. And essentially when you're doing that, you are utilizing the caged method. Whether you realize it or not, you don't have to understand that you're doing that. But you can find the 7 or so places where that E chord sounds good. I actually like it at the 3rd fret. That gives you a very Lydian sound, okay? And by Lydian, it's a raised 4th. No quiz on this, don't worry. A major scale, do, re, mi, sounds like that. A Lydian scale just takes that 4th note and goes up a half step instead. So anytime somebody says, oh, it sounds Lydian, it has that raised 4th note. And it's used a lot in film music to create kind of, oh, I remember back when I was a little girl. Yeah, you didn't know, did you? Tom Hart, good to see you. Are you new? I don't recognize your avatar. Aslan's in the house. Oh my goodness, good to see you. Charlie B's in the house. Jack Lloyd, we got all the favorites, and yet we still don't have. Do we have an admin yet? Hey, Harbor Springs, Michigan. Okay, I'm looking it up right now, Harbor Springs. Sam's in Michigan. Let's see. Now I'm going to go straight to Google Maps. See how close it, that sounds really familiar. Oh, you're up. You UP? Is that Upper Peninsula? Oh no, wait. Where the heck is that? Oh, you're across the pond from Petoskey. Now I've never been to Petoskey, but I had friends that had was it Petoskey? No, where did they have we used to man, you're probably under snow. Was it Petoskey? No, what's the name of that kind of quaint? But boy, it's right up there. Used to go to Pentwater. My mom rented a house in Pentwater when we had for all the grandkids to go to. Traverse City. Oh yeah, it was over here, I think. Dang, what was the name of their really kind of quaint area of Michigan's such an amazing state that most people never go to because you don't drive through it. And Detroit, that doesn't really count. Like if you land in Detroit, you haven't really, it's like I never claim I've been to Germany just because, hey, Bruce is here. And Dennis, okay, now we got some admins. I was a little late because I was working. I got a ton of work. I'm gonna have to cut this one short too today, but I've just buried, and I was finishing up on just one cue. This is how much bass playing I had to do on just one cue. So it was a lot of music. And I started last night because I was watching football during the day, and then my son and his girlfriend came over for dinner. We grilled steaks. And yeah, that's all just one cue. Fortunately, usually when I get these stacks of things from Austin, I'm working for Austin Wintry. When I get a stack of work from him, I usually do the longest bit first. Here's like I printed up, and by the way, I changed. You can see how my printer's clearly the ink is starting to die. I changed the ink and it's much better now. But this is the acoustic stuff. So this is less pages. I think I have 5 pages of acoustic. And then there's electric on it, and what else? Yeah, this Telecaster, steel string acoustic, and that's it. So yeah, so I've literally probably done 60% of the work already, maybe more. Depends on how hard the acoustic stuff is to get the vibe that he wants. But he's fairly easy to please. I mean, he digs my chili. Let's just say that. He likes how I play, so it works out. But yeah, so sorry, I got sidetracked. Trying to think of that town in Michigan. So my mom grew up in Lake City, Michigan, which is due south of where you are. Who was that? Second time watching, first time commenting. Hope I am doing well. Thank you, Tom. Oh yeah, Ken Sherlock. Tom, where are you at? Oh, nice, Ken. That's great. The reading basics lessons. Ooh, gosh, what did I do on those? I forget. I'm actually going to do, I have a note here to do another bluegrass jam track. I've been kind of pulling it up. I go ahead, I've got the original track, but I'd rather watch it on YouTube because I don't put any ads in it, right? There's an ad at the beginning, but that's it. But I pulled it up to work on some mandolin playing. I thought, it's 10 minutes long. Maybe 10 minutes every day I should pick up the mandolin and just kind of practice. But the thing I found was that I changed chords too fast. At least for me, for me wanting to work on like G scale and C scale and D scale or G triad or whatever. So instead of going, I'm going to double that out. I'm going to play 2 bars of G. And 2 bars of C. I feel like that will, elongate the progression, double the length of everything, and that'll be easier. So if I want to work on my G mixolydian scale over the G chord, then I got it. And then it goes to C chord after 2 long bars at 100 BPM. So that's pretty elongated. And so that's what I'm going to do. See, I'm still trying to think of where the culps, my friends used to go up. And Boyne Heights, is that the skiing place? Elk Rapids? It wasn't Elk Rapids. Dang it. I mean, maybe it was Petoskey, but I think my mom owned some land in Petoskey. Charlevoix is kind of interesting. Is that how you say it? Charlevoix is kind of this cool thing. It's like a little canal that they built that goes to this little lake, and then there's beautiful houses on that, and then it goes to this giant lake. I mean, if the weather in Michigan was like summer all year round, you couldn't keep people out of it. But Michigan's just a great state. I love it, and I don't foresee going there anytime soon. Sadly, I'm trying to. Yeah, Boyne Highlands back in the day. Yeah, I think my sister went skiing up there and her best friend or somebody broke their leg like the first time down the slopes and kind of ruined the whole weekend. And it was a weekend trip. It was from Indianapolis. It was about an 8-hour drive. So they went up like on Thursday, came back on Monday, and the whole trip was ruined. Okay, so extrapolating some licks, some shape-based licks in open position. We're talking about chord embellishments, fills, and riffs. Thing I get asked to talk about a lot, and basically what that means is, like, what do I do if I'm sitting on a G chord for a long time, and then C chord or E minor? What do I do over E or A, and how can I make it more interesting? And so there's kind of two different ways to kind of think about it. One is licks that kind of keep the strumming going, and licks that are more separate or more individual notes that may be between chords or inside a chord or connecting two chords. Like a lick that might connect two chords would be something simple as this. That's a bass line, but it's also just a way to connect G to C and make it pretty obvious to everyone. You can do a lot of different ways on it. That would be D. Think like a bass player and go, what's the next chord and how can I get there? And those might be connecting fills or connecting riffs. Those are always fun because, it's like, you go from G to C and you use some kind of double stop or just some kind of lick that clearly sets it up. Where you're clearly going to a C chord next. It sets that up. Those are what I might call connecting riffs or connecting licks. But like over this G, one of the most common things that guitar players do very early on, in fact, is do that hammer on that, and that would be a chord embellishment that kind of keeps the whole thing going. Whereas a riff might be something like, almost like the song "Amy" by Pure Prairie League. God, I'm still. Where is that? Man, it's so funny how many of these places sound familiar to me, like Torch Lake. Mainly because I spent summers in Michigan, in Lake City, which is near Cadillac, between Cadillac and Houghton Lake, and places. I remember watching the news, and it would come from like Bay City. Or it would come from Traverse City, which is hilarious. And you'd have these newscasters that maybe are speaking to 10,000 people maybe on a good day. Thanks, Bruce, for taking care of all that stuff. Oh, I didn't post sorry, did somebody say post let me grab that Discord link. Oh, and Bruce, you're probably wondering what I did regarding the... So I texted Bruce about what tool, or if he had a recommendation for digging grooves deeper in a nut, and a saddle, which is here, and it was on a new instrument that I just got. You know me, I'm always getting new instruments. I'll show it to you in a second. And the strings, well, for one thing, the action was way too high, and I was watching videos. And I saw, on the pros, their action was like almost normal guitar height because it's a fretless Instrument. 3 strings generally can be tuned several different ways, but oftentimes like a power chord like G, C, D, or G, C, sorry, C, G, C, or D, A, D, kind of like a cigar box guitar. But the problem was the strings were popping off, moving, off the bridge, and the action was really high, and it's a friction tuners, which I hate. It's like the 1-to-1 gear ratio. You'll see it in a second. You might be able to see it behind me now. You can see the bass behind me because that's like I said, I was doing a bunch of bass tracking. And I'm going to probably have to cut today short because I've got a ton of work to do. And I want to get as much of it done as I can before Beth gets home from work so we can hang out. But that's welcome to my life. So, so that lick, the cool thing about that lick is that, you know, there's so many open strings in G, right? There's so many open strings. I keep looking over here for the camera, but it's there now. So I'm trying to get it so I'm looking more directly at you all. So the you've got that little hammer on right there. So I'm hammering on my second finger onto the second fret of the 5th string, open, and then hammering it on. I have not been drinking. I know you see the bourbon back there, but I don't. That maybe once every 2 months I'll have a glass of bourbon. But the nice thing about that is you've got open strings. You can kind of keep the G chord going, so it's not just like. You got all those beautiful open strings. Okay, now what was I talking about the cage method? Well, again, the G chord is the 3rd chord in the caged methodology. C, A, G. So G, we got this G shape, means that we can take that G shape and visualize it. Well, the problem with this, visualizing this, and remember when I first taught the caged method, I said play all 5 of these chords with these 3 fingers, and then swap it out and play all five of those chords with these 3 fingers. It's much more difficult, but it frees up your first finger to be that human capo that follows the chord. So for example, you know, you might normally play G like this. Try playing it like this. Now you got this first finger available. Don't try this at home, but if you slide it up a fret now, and you put your first finger G, even I have trouble with it. You bar your first finger at the 1st fret, that's an A flat chord. Now if I had to do an A flat chord on the fly, I would probably gravitate towards the E form bar chord, which E form and the A form, basically the E chord slid up in the cage method and the A chord slid up. Those are the 2 most common bar chords. But I'm not really showing you this to have you learn it. I'm just showing you this to have you visualize it, okay? Well, believe it or not, this lick Jimi Hendrix used all the time. Okay, but it's not like you think. So, and he was thinking in the key of C, for example, he might visualize this G shape, okay? There's A flat, there's A, there's B flat, don't worry, no quiz. B and C, somebody put a coffee mug icon up there so I can highlight the fact that I said there will be no quiz on this. But now that you're up at C, now you can... Okay, now Hendrix didn't do that vibe to it, but he would often play like C. He would basically play off what would have been open strings. See, I can approach those same country bluegrass licks with more of an R&B flavor, which again, Jimmy started out in an R&B band and kind of a soul funk, but funk was probably not even so much a thing right around. That was more R&B. Who is the artist? I know somebody here knows who he toured with. And he basically was the star of the show. Probably part of the reason why that gig didn't last very long, which was a good thing. Again, probably one of those times in life when he got fired, he probably thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to him, but it was the best thing that ever happened to him. But I don't know that he got fired. But I do know that he was, eventually people were coming to see him and not the mainline artist. Thank you, Sam, for posting the drink. Oh yeah, David Crosby, so sad. There will be no Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young reunion, at least on this plane of existence, on this side of eternity, as they say. I mean, mean, as much drugs as those guys did at one point, I'm surprised they've all lasted as long as they have. My friend Kirk is a big Neil Young fan, and he Neil Young, I think, lives up in the Central Coast near my friend Kirk, so he sees him every now and then at like the grocery store. It's like, wait, you're a real person? How is that? Okay, so like I said, you take that. We can take these licks that we know already that we tend to do, or licks or embellishments that we do over our favorite open chords, and we can transpose those to different keys and create different vibes. And that's exactly like I said. So basically what I'm doing is I'm at the 5th fret. Sorry, there's no fret markers there. But I'm barring my first finger at the 5th fret, and then I'm getting those same, basically just playing this little part of the pentatonic shape. So I'm playing first finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, third finger on the 7th fret of the 5th string, and then first finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and then third finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string, then first finger on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, and then third finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. So that little box, making a little box shape. Just do that for a while here. And that's the same as... Something you would do with just your middle finger, read between the lines. I'm not going to isolate it. But that would be the same thing in G and C, or if you want to do it in D or in B flat. Okay, you just basically visualize there's the B flat chord, G shape, A flat, A, B flat, or A sharp. But like I said, Jimmy would do a lot of that kind of double stop because again he was in a trio. And when you're in a trio, even Van Halen technically was a trio. It was guitar, bass, drums, and with a singer. When you're in a trio, you kind of have to fill things out a little bit. If you have another guitar player and a keyboard player, you really don't have to. You might do more kind of power chordy kind of things. But when you're by yourself, you see that, like I said, the lick, this G lick, the thing I said I like about it. You can hit a bunch of strings. You can be messy. You can hit 2 or 3 strings as you're doing the riff, and that keeps the harmony going. So it doesn't sound like, that sounds like a lick. That would be a riff or a fill. It wouldn't be a chord embellishment. But if I kind of keep the... So I'm hitting the open D string, the open G string, and the open B string, and I'm hammering on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, hammering on that E. So I'm getting a whole chord thing. Oh, that's awesome, Catherine. And one of the best ways you can kind of make it a little easier on yourself is get guitar set up. So just tell your guitar, whoever works you can find that work on a guitar. Tell them you want it to play like butter, and then put lighter strings on it. You can even put, it's not, not the best sound, and it may ultimately not be great for the neck if you put electric guitar strings like 10s. You can get 10s in acoustic sets, but you might be breaking G strings every now and then. But electric set would have an unwound G string, and so. I've got 13s on this just because I just like the seriousness of the tone in the room. But Catherine, I'm going to take this and have it set up. I'm going to have this set up because I'm going to have my guy lower the action because I kind of want this to be one of my main players in the studio, and it doesn't have a pickup in it. It doesn't have the system in it, so I don't really have to worry about the saddle and the contact with the pickup or anything like that. That kind of interplay. So this is purely going to be a studio player. or if I'm doing some live thing where I might use this, but again, I'm keeping the harmony going when I do that riff over G, okay? Same thing that Hendrix tends to do. So basically I'm only concerned about barring I'm at the 5th fret. I know you can't tell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm hitting the 2nd string and the 3rd string, and I'm hammering the 3rd finger on the 3rd string at the 7th fret. So I'm hitting those 2 notes, the 2nd and 3rd string, not the E string, just those 2, and I'm hammering that on. And I'm trying to get it so that the B string continues to ring out. I don't want to lay my 3rd finger down. I want the very tip of my 3rd finger to do that hammer on, which makes for a better hammer on anyway. My guitar teacher in college, when studying classical guitar, hammer-ons and pull-offs aren't called that in classical guitar. They're called... I can't think of it. But he would say kind of try to drive your fingertip through the fretboard. Because you want it. See, if I even just... See, I'm not even if I hit the string, you can try that. Try to hit that 3rd finger tip at the 7th fret of the 3rd string without strumming it and see if you can generate a tone. Can you hear that? Sorry, I hope I'm not missing too much here. Oh, nice. Joseph can finally play Wildwood Flower. That's awesome. Isley Brothers. Little Richard, yeah, but I thought there was someone else he toured with. Let me go to Wiki. I thought there was maybe it was the Isley Brothers I was thinking of. Curtis Knight and the Squires more moving to England. Yeah, I think it was the Curtis Knight thing. Isley Brothers, yeah, I think it was the Curtis Knight thing where it was like people were coming to see him instead of Curtis, and that was not probably the best. And I've watched a couple videos on did he die accidentally, really, or was he killed? It's like, okay, so yeah, so the idea is we're at the 5th fret, barring just 2 strings, and then I'm hammering on. You can do a couple different variations. You can go hammer on and then hit it again, open, or you can hammer, pull off. And just do that with string pairings. Now on Hey, Jonathan, or well, it looks like Jonathan, but it's not Jonathan. Ozzy Osbourne. I remember teaching Crazy Train back in the, was that 80s, early 80s, or was that actually 70s? That would have been 80s, I think. Randy Rhoads. That was interesting. I'll talk about it in a second. Again, I have to kind of cut it short today, maybe stop it around 10:30 my time. I have just a ton of work. You saw, I showed you the stack of bass stuff, and I'm done with that. But I've got Apex, I've got probably a week's worth of Apex work I got to start chipping away at. Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, the subscribers keep going up. I'm averaging about 8,000 viewers per 48 hours, which is pretty good. I mean, you know, we get down to 6,000, 5,000, I'd be like, okay. And I've got a video I got to finish editing to upload, and I haven't. And I did an unboxing of this instrument, Bruce, that I'm going to tell you about. Lopez, JL, J-Lo. I'm going to call you J-Lo. I told a story about who was the bass player for Ozzy in that band. I hung out with him at the NAMM show one year for the whole day. I was with him the whole day. It was kind of a pain because everybody knew who he was. Nobody knows who I am. And everybody knew who he was. And we'd walk 10 feet at NAMM, and then somebody would stop and talk to him for 5 minutes. And then we'd walk another 10 feet. I felt bad for the guy because he was like trying to see stuff at NAMM, and it's really hard because everybody knows who you are. Rudy Sarzo. Super nice guy. Next door neighbor of one of my best friends. Joe DeBlasi. He lives right next door to Joe DeBlasi, who I did an interview with. Somebody wants to interview me, by the way, and I'll let you know when that happens. I'll try to put it up on the Discord. I don't know if we're going to do it live or we're going to tape it and then show it. But he's another YouTuber in New York, and he asked me if I would be interested, and I said, of course. So anyway, so there's a story about the how Randy died and all that, and Rudy's speculation. Of course, the pilot's dead too. The pilot was their bus driver. So, but he speculated the bus driver was trying to kill them all, not just Randy. So it's interesting. So we got this. That riff is technically a caged method G-shaped riff. You might more likely slide down to the C note on the fifth string like this, something like that. But when you're starting here, you're basically visualizing. And again, I don't think you have to be able to play all 5 of these chords as bar chords. Like I said, the main 2 bar chords are the A form based on this shape and the E form based on this shape. Those are the 2 main ones you want to get down. The A form even be more difficult than the E form. I mean, I don't very often. I will. I mean, if I have to. But if a song's in F, I'm going to capo. I don't have a problem capoing. And again, this all plays into, when you capo, all of your licks that you knew before are all transposed with the capo. And so you're kind of utilizing the caged method. You're not, if you're thinking, when you're here at the 3rd fret, if you're thinking, oh, I'm playing a G chord, you're not. You're playing a B flat chord. And I always tell you, don't, know what chord you're playing when you capo. Don't think you're playing G. Most people just go, oh, G, C, D. But the problem is, if you think you're playing G, C, D, and you go do a D lick, it's not right. You're not playing a D chord, you're playing an F chord. I'm running out of real estate up here. So that's just me. That's one of my things. I really prefer to know what chords I'm playing over. So I can read the chart as is. I don't need to transpose the chart, which saves time. And it saves from confusion if you want to try to embellish something. You're not thinking you're in one key when you're really in another. And for those of you with perfect pitch, I think it would be impossible to think that you're playing in G when you're playing in B flat. I think that would just drive your brain, your ear and your brain would be fighting each other. So, okay, so, what other licks do we have that we like? Over the E chord, like I showed you, we did this one before where we just... When you hammer on that first finger, you're creating a very kind of rockabilly blues sound, maybe a country shuffle kind of vibe. Because what's happening there is you got the major third, you got the major E major chord, and you're kind of implying a minor for a split second, and that gives it kind of a blues sound. Like when we play over an A7 chord, we play a C natural instead of a C sharp. It's like you're technically playing a wrong note, but it works because we've through a century we've been conditioning ourselves to think that sounds cool, and it does. And so, a classical composer might not naturally come up with that sound 150, 200 years ago, because they'd be like, well, that note's wrong. But flash forward 100 years, 200 years, and it works. So ultimately, harmony, I think, obviously has gotten more complex, although I can go back and play some Bach stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, the guy was a freaking genius. I've been playing a little bit of Bach. I don't have my book out right now, but I have a lot of Bach music, and I've been playing some of the hardest stuff to play on guitar are the fugues, the 4-part invention stuff, where it's like it takes a melody and then it moves that melody to the tenor line, then it plays something to harmony, and then it adds, and pretty soon you have 4 parts going at once, and you're like, how do you do it? There have been better guitar players than I that have done transcriptions and fingerings of those pieces. Hey, Bill Harrison, what's going on? The King Casuals. That's awesome. Yeah, in the Army. That's right. He was in the Army. Did he make it all the way through the Army? Well, he was born in... Was he born in 47? I just had it up. No, I don't. Do I have it up anymore? No, I took it down. So that lick, the way you would use the cage method to transpose that, and again, that's a perfect example of a chord embellishment. You can kind of keep the whole chord going. I can literally play all 6 strings and do that riff at the same time. Okay? And so you might not use it that way as you go up the neck, but if I were to take that E form, okay, remember, if we want to kind of visualize the cage method, we play the 5 chords with our first 3 fingers, then we play it with our next 3 fingers. And so when I do that, I get this. Look, I got a free finger. And so that finger now can be the capo, the human capo. And if I go up to A, I might not do that. I might go, you don't. Very common. Sounds like something like Elvis, kind of riff or something, but basically, that would how you would do it in E, but here up at A, so basically again I'm borrowing the 5th fret, 2nd and 3rd string, and now I'm hammering on I'm using my 2nd finger instead of my 3rd finger. And before we were going down. I'm actually just going up 1 fret. So I'm implying an A minor chord, but then resolving it very, very quickly to the A major. And then when I slide up 2 frets, do another bar like this. Again, just 2 strings. You might call these double stops. And in between, I'm kind of a swing thing. Dun, da, 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 da. Okay? Da, da, da. So tap, here's straight 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So if I did it like that, can I even do it like that? No, I can't. I'm just going to tell you straight out, I can't do it. That kind of riff, you naturally have to swing. So again, clap those straight 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So when a jazz drummer's over here and he's reaching over here with his stick, he's got his stick. This is my whamola drumstick here. And he's going over to his ride cymbal. He's not going ting, 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 ting. He's going ting, ta, ting, ta, ting, ta, ting, ta, ting, right? So he's making that 8th note closer to the next quarter note than it was to the previous quarter note. Okay, so here's how we clap swing. Swing. In MIDI data, I can take a swing. If I put it at 50%, it's dot 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 straight like a machine. But if I go to 51%, it's going to be a little bit later. You'll notice it at about 60%. You'll start to notice it. 66% is kind of like a pure swing, a triplet kind of bump, 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 bump. If I were to do triplets, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So if I did triplets, I can slow that down. Let's slow that down. One triplet, two triplet, three triplet. Do that with me. Okay? I'm touching on so many subjects. Okay? So basically what you do is if you want to kind of create a pseudo swing feel, you get rid of that middle triplet. And that would be like a pure 66.6666 swing. And it would be like, here we have the 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, go 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. You get rid of the middle note. And that's kind of the feel I'm doing here. So that second chord was the 7th fret, 3rd string and 2nd string. And then I'm going to the 9th fret and 8th fret, 2nd string and 3rd string. So 3rd string is the 9th and 2nd finger is playing the 8th fret. And then back down to the bar at the 7th. And maybe hammer on that C sharp as quickly as you can. So it's what you would call a grace note. Okay, if I did it as like an 8th note, it doesn't really have the same vibe. You want to hint at that C natural. You really want to. You don't want your audience to be concerned that you're in A minor and not A major. Making stuff up at this point, but that's basically that's one way to take a very, very simple lick that you might learn very early in your guitar playing, a simple lick like that, and using the cage method to transpose that to be usable in any key. Because now that you've got it, that's the beauty of the cage method. Once you have something positionally set up with no open strings, see, this uses open strings. You can't just when you move it up that way without a bar behind it, you're really not, it's not congruent. It's not staying the same as it goes up. But this is, it's the same. That's in the lick in E, here's the lick in A, but I can go now to A, B. So yeah, so you can take any lick. Let's see what would be another one. Maybe over C. You know, you would do that thing. You know. So if I'm in, let's say I'm in F, I'm up here. I might do that kind of riff. Now again, this is one of those bar shapes that I don't necessarily think you would need to know, but I talked about this a lot. In fact, I even mentioned, I think last week, that I saw John Lennon do this chord for D and this chord for E on some live videos of the Beatles, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a great voicing. I mean, C just sounds so good on the guitar. And to be able to move that up and play D, even without the bar, you can play with the E string. That becomes a D add 9, or I call it a D2. And then if you go up 2 more frets and play E, it's just an E, so you don't really even need to mention it. It's not unmentionable, you just don't need to mention it. That means that's two different things. That E string is unmentionable. If I go up a fret, another fret, now I've created an F major 7th, which is kind of cool. I don't think John ever did that, but he might have done it in writing and go, wow, that's beautiful. And then they went to an F major 7 chord or something. But that's where he met Billy Cox. Oh, wait, Charlie, sorry. Broke his ankle on. Oh, okay. It's so. I don't know if you guys have seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a fun movie, independent film. actually had two directors, and there, when you watch it, you realize, oh yeah, I think you need five directors. I mean, I want to see the shooting schedule on it. It probably looks like New York City phone book. It's got so many scenes, and the premise is, and you learn this pretty early in the movie, so I'm not giving anything away. Not really part of the, I mean, it's part of the plot, but the premise is that every decision you make, kind of a yes or no or X or Y or A or B or whatever decision you make, creates two different universes. The one that you chose and the one you didn't choose. And so there's billions, infinite number of universes out there. And it's pretty funny. Some of the universes are pretty crazy. But you exist on all those different planes, and I don't know why I was bringing that up. Why was I bringing that up? Oh, because of you, Charlie. Yeah, it's like you think about, what if your parents never met? It, like, that kind of stuff, like, freaks me out. It's like, wait a minute, what if that one thing, like my parents met at Michigan State, and I think my mom was the daughter of a congressman in Michigan, a Washington D.C. congressman. She was crawling in a window of a frat party at my dad's frat house. Or no, I don't even think it was his frat. I think he was playing drums in a jazz combo at the house, so like playing a party there. And she crawls in the window to get into this party, and that's how my parents met. I'm like, that's, what if, there's so many things. I mean, it can drive yourself, you can drive yourself crazy thinking about all these possible scenarios, and, poof, I'm not here. There's probably a billion things that had to happen. I mean, you look at how my mom's parents met and my dad's parents met, and so on and so forth. I know my dad's parents, my grandmother was engaged to another man, and my grandfather met her, and he was like a busboy at Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, I think. At the Lake Geneva Resort. He was like a busboy, and he saw my grandmother, and he said, "I'm going to marry you," the day he met her. And she said, "I'm already engaged." Sure enough, they got married. So, we all have those stories. Each one of you have those same kind of stories with your family. That's what freaks me out sometimes. Like, the Beatles are just a perfect amalgam. Those four people, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a believer, and I work at church, and I have faith in God and all that. And these kind of things make me believe in God, like that God could bring together John, Paul, George, and Ringo. It's like, how else could that have happened? Although John, Paul, and George grew up in the same neighborhood, so it was very likely they would have ended up. And Ringo, but again, if Ringo hadn't been thrown into the mix, I don't think the Beatles would have been as popular as they would. They might have had one or two hits. They would have been one-hit wonders. So, yeah, your parents met at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Yep. Yeah, that's Earth Angel. And yeah, and like, you're not ready for this, but your kids are going to love it, right? That was Tim May that played those guitar parts and coached Michael J. Fox on how to do it. Tim May's a session player here in town, in LA. I've done a bit of coaching of actors. All right, so I'm getting off base, and I've got things I want to share. And I've got to get out of here. So, I mean, not out of here. I got to stay here, but I got to get to work. So you can think of, you can maybe sit down as you're inventing licks. I use that all the time. Like, so if I, over A minor, but that has, has a kind of foundation in that kind of. So any lick that you already know in open position over any chord embellishment, you can use the cage method to turn that into 11 more riffs. Actually 12 more if you count the 12th fret. That's another thing we haven't talked about, and I could probably talk about one of the best ways to find riffs in chord embellishments of riffs and fills is to learn the scale around that chord. So for example, the G major scale, all those notes are fair game if you're in the key of G and you're playing over a G chord. Okay, so if I'm in the key of E and I learn the E major licks, or E major scale, all those notes are good. You know, if you're playing over like an E blues thing, you might want to learn, you could learn E mixolydian. And usually if I'm playing a session or something and I see the song's in the key of E and it's an open position, I'll kind of run through the scale. I'll kind of make sure I have all those notes under my fingers before I start sight reading something. Let's see, the Blackbird. Actually, Paul would do it like this. He would use his index fingers like a little kind of almost like John Mayer does that, and hey, Dead Man's Wife, what's going on? John Mayer would use that too a lot on what was that train song? Something Train. It was a nice tune. Yes. Jeff H is asking 100%. That's a great question. So when I played, like if I was at the E, if it was the, so you're saying if the E major was the 4 chord, then technically you'd be in the key of B. So that would be a different scale. That's exactly right. So that was where you would get that E Lydian scale I talked about before. So you're doing a song. So that's where a place where maybe E sus the way you normally play wouldn't work. Although if you do E sus and it's the 4 chord, if you do a sus chord over as a 4 chord, it's going to give it kind of it always kind of harkens to kind of a blues thing. But to me, it always sounds like, and there's a reason why it sounds like the Rolling Stones. And that's because Keith Richards would have his guitar tuned to open G, and he would just do, and then he'd get to the 4 chord or 5 chord, and that F natural's not in the key of G, but you just don't care. It's kind of like that when you hammer on that E note, or the G sharp from the G, you don't really care that G note is not in the key, because you're only there for a second and you know where you're headed. You're headed to the G sharp. So that's why you can do weird notes, because generally everybody knows you're going to head to the root third or fifth of the chord at some point. If you just stayed on the weird note, like if I played the F over that, I'd be like, oh, what? Why are you doing that? But if I whatever, it's some kind of Spanish thing, you'd be like, okay, cool, the F is okay, we'll let you play the F. So, but what, yeah, I was always a Beatles, and I was the opposite, Dead Man. So what Jeff is saying, if we're in the key of B, then we got a B chord is the 1 chord, and then the 5 chord is F sharp and E. So if I'm, you know, instead of playing, again, that would make that, you know, sounds like Black Crows, right? Or is that right? The Black Crows, is that what I'm thinking of? Or kind of, you know, anybody who's going to play an open A major tuning is going to do that naturally. But really what you want is this A sharp, which again creates that, it's a very common trick in film music to create, you know, this maudlin kind of, you know, tug on the heartstrings kind of. So yeah, it would be a different scale that you might want to run through. Most of the notes are going to be usable in the key of E, but it's that 4th degree that you're going to want to raise. So like. It's not very often that I'm asked to play licks in E Lydian in open position, but yes, Jeff H is 100% correct on that. So and where that might come into play more is like, especially with opens. I'm just playing F, C, G, and you wouldn't want to play G major here. You want to play G mixed Lydian. Kind of the opposite side. Now the G chord is the 5 chord, and so now you want to play, instead of a G major scale over it, you play a G mixed Lydian. Don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz on this. You discover these things often from trial and error, and you might end up playing this scale and not have a clue that it's a G mixed Lydian scale. You just go, oh, this scale, the C scale works much better over this G chord than the G scale did, which is essentially what G Mixolydian is. Remember, we talked about modes many times before, and every scale, you know, every key has 7 modes, and so you can, you know, if I'm in the key of C, the first mode is C major, oops, not Lydian. The next one is D Dorian. Same notes, just starting on D. And then the next one will be E frigid. And then F Lydian. Then we have that sharp 4th degree. And then the next scale will be G mixed Lydian. Now the bebop scale is Mixolydian with a major 7th added. I think the reason they do that, the only reason I can think of for doing that is to have 8 notes so that you can end on 1. Usually played over like a G7. I don't know. I'm not. I only discovered the bebop scale later in life, and I've heard like a couple different versions of it, like, oh no, the bebop scale is the flat 3, not the major 7th. Why would you know? So I don't want to get into that argument. All right, so okay, let me put this down. We can all take a sip. So yeah, this is the thing that I got And it's surprisingly heavy because this neck is really solid wood. I think it's rosewood or something. But I don't know if you can see that nut. You can see I really dug. Bruce, I didn't order a special saw. I just got one of these. Just got this. It's a hack saw because I'm a hack. And so this is not like, I wouldn't do this to my Martin, but this thing, I just was like, and I could, if I screw this up, okay, if I totally screw this up, my guitar guy can make me a new nut and just glue it on, and then it'll be fine. But when I looked up videos of nuts, the problem was the nut was so high that when I pushed down and again, these are friction tuners, so they're just not staying put. You really have to shove them in there. And I'm not tuned, but again, not any kind of interval I would ever use. But the interesting thing about it is the bottom string is it's kind of a samisen, which is a Japanese instrument, but this is a Chinese version of it. You can see there's the sound hole on the back. It's got like a spruce top or something, some kind of wood. Normally it would be a skin top. I thought it was going to be a skin top. I didn't look closely at the pictures, and I ordered this from Etsy. And generally, whenever I get something from Etsy, I'm always like, yeah, this is almost more of like a hang on the wall kind of thing. But it's not bad. I can make this work. And the other problem, Bruce, that I was having was that when I was digging in a little bit, the strings would move around on the saddle. And I think that the saddle, when Bruce is making me a cigar box guitar. I think if you watch players, they're hitting pretty hard, are they not? You know, they're hitting that cigar box pretty hard. And so I'm, because it's tuned to a power chord basically. That's what this is tuned to. I mean, there's different types of tunings. You can tune fourths, you can tune fifths. Probably the easiest or the most common is to tune it like a power chord. So like D, A, D, which this is not what this is. I don't know. I do have an acoustic track. Let's see. Where's my mic? Come here, Mike. Do I have to enable it? And I'm not sure why. Oh, probably because I'm online. It won't send it. But and it has a totally usable headstock that I can clip a tuner on. But because they're friction tuners, it's one of those things where you've got to turn them and push them in at the same time. I hate them so much. I just got a call to do some lute music, and okay, this is almost D. It's a little. Oh no, wrong one. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, now, and see, once I move it, it's not shoved in. Now I gotta shove it in again and start over. And now I'm way low. And I can't see my tuner. So, it's an experiment. Once I get this thing in tune, the strings are new. So, I was gonna say, the cool thing about it though is the bottom string is like a brass wound string, kind of like a bronze wound or something. The middle string is nylon, and the top string is steel. But the problem with having the action too high, I couldn't get, oh, thank you, Kent, goodness gracious. What a blessing. I couldn't get a half step. Like if I pushed down as close as I could to the nut and it would go from D to E. And I'm like, what if I want an E flat? I can't play it because I was literally bending the string to make contact with the fingerboard. And $50, Ken, that's great. That's in Michigan money, that's like $100, right? No, it's not. Canada is like, I always made fun of Canadians because it's like, whenever I did clinics up in Canada, I was like, okay, somebody would ask me what something costs, and I say, well, this guitar was like $880, and I said, but in Canadian, that's like, I don't know what, $7,000 or something. So God bless you, Ken. I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's really cool. It's got a cool tone. I actually had a composer ask me if I had one of these a couple of years ago, and I started doing some research on it, and then that opportunity passed, and so I just kind of let it slide. No, the bridge is not fixed in place. And what I'm going to do now is still too high. There's a bolt there. I'm going to loosen that and see if that allows me to adjust the neck, because the neck goes right through the body to this. I don't know if this is the same piece. No, it's not the same piece of wood. It's very heavy, which is interesting. Clearly, it's neck heavy. So, probably we play it like this. And normally, in fact, I got to order one of the picks, but they're giant. They play with these giant picks that look like fans. And they're like $50 a pop, but they can last a lifetime. So I don't know that I'm really going to try to work it with that, try to get that, because that's adding another layer of technique. I'm already having to deal with the fretless thing, which I'm getting better at. Anyway, so once the strings stretch out, it'll probably stay in tune a little bit better, but this is totally movable, so I could position it more over the center to get maybe more volume or something. But when I looked at videos, it's typically right about there, maybe a little further in. And so I did put grooves in there. I don't know if I can get the light to work with me here. Let's see. All right, oh shoot, dang it, the light is just too, God. It's just the camera adjusts too much to the light. But I did put little grooves in there so the strings would stop popping out. But I don't want to go any further down because I don't want to split this in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off and sand it to the bottom of it. The bocce, yeah, that's right though. It's a bocce. That's very good. Yeah, so I don't know that I'll ever get a good bocce technique. If I get called to use this, it won't be ever live. It'll be in the studio. It'll be on a movie or something, or a video game, probably more likely. See you later, Kathy. Okay, so anyway, that's the new instrument du jour. I may end up getting another one if I really kind of get into it and get a better one. Get one with a skin instead of, this is a wood top and back. Like I said, they normally have a skin. It's still pretty cool. If I could get the neck to kind of tilt away, like the kumbas. The amazing thing about the kumbas is it has this bolt, and you just tighten, and the neck goes this way, like just goes like that. And I got it, man. It's set up to play really nice. But this one is the action is really high, and I've looked at a lot of session players, and they don't normally have it set that high. But the Kumbas, she has this bolt right here, just a simple wing nut right there. See that? And it just, I've this thing set up great. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah. So, and this is a kumbas. This is an Arabic instrument made in Turkey. It was built by, I've talked about this before. It was built by, his name's on it. Ebedine, actually, it's Zenel, let's see, Zenel Ebedine Kumbas, something like that. And he was an arms manufacturer in World War I, and after World War I ended, he wanted to stop making weapons of war, and he wanted to make weapons of peace. And so he invented this. This is kind of a poor man's oud, and every man's oud. He wanted everybody to be able to have an oud in their house, kind of like everybody, had a guitar in their house or a piano in their house back in the day. And yeah, so that's a really cool instrument. It sounds great. I've used it on a lot of stuff. If someone ever says, "Hey, I need kind of a weird sound on this melody," I said, "Okay, I got just the instrument." Yeah, yeah. I always joke about it. It looks like literally a pan that you could. It looks like you could take it camping. It looks like you could make popcorn in it or something. Yeah, it's an amazing instrument. Yeah, and Bruce, I'm trying to decide right now what to work on. I've got a bunch of just stacks of Apex stuff to do. So I'd like to finish this stuff for Austin. I got the acoustic stuff printed up. I've got a little bit of Telecaster to do on it, and then that's it for this piece. I could sit here and let's see. Let me see what this looks like. Oh, okay, this is easy. I get rid of this note. That's not necessary. Okay, let me print this up. I got a new cartridge in my printer, so I can kind of work and print charts and work at the same time, or talk to you and whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe I can't. Oh dang, forget it. Let's see what this looks like. All right, this looks good. This doesn't look too hard. Oh no, piece of cake. Get rid of this note. That's not a playable note. Some kind of articulation thing. So sometimes when I'm opening up this MIDI for these sessions, it's very easy. There'll be these notes that are like 400 ledger lines down. Well, what that usually means is there was some kind of controller function that he hit when he was playing the melody to create maybe vibrato or something like that. And it'll become apparent when I listen to the audio bounce of that MIDI. I think I have, like, for example, I can highlight it right here. It's just like, where's that first bit? Oh, it's there. Let me do this one here. So here's what the bounce sounds like. I forget, this is like over 1,000 bars long. Almost sounds like Beatles. But in the context of the piece, it's got this weird kind of ethereal thing going on in the background. So it won't, and my tone is going to be different than that. Oh, that's why that one didn't work, because that wasn't mic 1. That's okay. So yeah, there's that. Let me save. Okay, so this is the Tele stuff, and I've got to start prepping. I've got to start prepping the Apex stuff I'm doing. So I watched with Alex yesterday, and I watched the other day. Yeah, and Ken, did you have a question? Just want to make sure that I didn't miss a question that you asked. If anybody asks a question and I don't see it, usually my one of my admins will point it out to me. Okay, Jeff H. When I play in, say, A minor, I'm always very cognizant of the C major scale. Yeah, parent, exactly. Should I let go of that and focus on the A minor scale shape more, or do you also picture both? Yes. Well, and the interesting thing about that, when we talk about caged method, we're always talking about major chords, right? We don't really have a caged method for minor chords because of that relationship between them. Like, for example, A minor and C major, they have the exact same notes. But you can still visualize lots of A minor shapes up and down the fretboard, which is basically utilizing caged-like thinking, but over the A minor. So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's licks that work better over A minor than over C, and C licks that sound better over C than they do over A minor. A minor can also, in pop music, could also be have in the key could be a harmonic minor. It may not be a harmonic minor the entire song, or even the entire phrase. I mean, I can't tell you how many pop songs, I've played on or written, for that matter, that maybe use like F. So I'm playing in the key of C technically, but then as soon as I go to the A minor chord, I could still be in the key of C, but as soon as I go to that E major chord, now I'm going, okay, now we're definitely in A minor maybe. I might do that, it might be something different like, let's see, I need it to be the first chord. So I'm going A minor to C to F to E, and that E major or E7, and that would, obviously you might peg it as A minor before you even got to the E because you're starting on an A minor chord. But if I start, see, if I go, see, I can't start. Well, I can start. See, I go. I go to play. Creep by Radiohead in the key of C, and it's like, what key are you? What key are we in? And that song, could be, you could peg it as a couple different keys. It really has no tonal key center. So in those scenarios, you play over the A minor, however you want to play. If you want to emphasize the G sharp or the G natural, So yeah, but for the most part, you're 100% correct. If I'm playing over an A minor chord, I'm probably visualizing. I might think A minor pentatonic. I might think A minor scale mode. But I might think C. I don't know. It just depends. If it's a song that's just sitting, if it's a vamp that's sitting on A minor, I'm definitely going to think A minor. I'm going to play A blues, that kind of stuff. A minor blues. But yeah, the E7 would be the 5 chord of the A minor there. Yeah, in that scenario, in that pop scenario, you could also call it the 5 of 6 if you were going to analyze it in more of a classical manner, with figured bass. Bruce, it's hard for me to stop talking, isn't it? Anyway, let me see. No, it's fine, Bruce, because I can actually do some prep work here. Let me see what I have. I've got literally 8 things of Apex things I've got to get to. So I'll probably do this one first. Okay. Oh, I see. That's fine. Oh, interesting. They don't have any MIDI for me, but that's okay. 100 beats. All right. Open with. So Logic Pro. Turn off the sound so it doesn't pop. Yes, change project. Okay, so here, and basically I can't play this, but it said 100 beats per minute. It looks like he gave me 1 bar up front. That's fine. Oops. Change the tempo. And then I'm just going to add a dozen tracks. Start with a dozen tracks. I'm going to layer like anywhere between 12 and 20 guitars on this. Weird sound effects, sometimes big power chords, sometimes leads, sometimes weird, like I said, weird effects, loops, things like that. And then basically, I'll spend a couple hours on it, and then he'll pick 1 or 2 things that he likes the best and put that in the final mix. Now, with the new Apex stuff, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but they're definitely mixing in 7/1, so they're always looking for, so they may end up using more than just 2 or 3 of my 20 tracks that I send. And sometimes he'll take something I send and really add some insane effects to it or some crazy distortion or something to it. Barton's like a genius, and he calls me a mad scientist, but I'm a lot of times I'm using different weird guitars tuned different ways and stuff, baritone guitars, bass 6, I'll use my cluster guitars. I'll use all sorts of weird guitars. In fact, I'm going to create if I have time, maybe I'll do a new cluster guitar today, create a new one. But, oh, thank you, Jeff. God bless you.
Yeah, $100 in my neck of the wind, California. Yeah. I'm glad you learned a lot from me. That's why I'm here, man. Appreciate you. I really do. And what? But with 7.1, he may end up using 5 or 6 or 7 different of the things I do, so they can put something over there that's like coming over, and then also they're doing what's the other mixing system that they're doing? The the mixing. I always call it. It's not Avid. It's not Apex. It's the Atmos. They may be mixing some of this stuff in Atmos too, which is really cool. I don't know if you've heard anything in Atmos, but it's trippy because then you have speakers over your head, so things can, they can place sounds just about anywhere. Like this right here, they can place it over there, over here. It's crazy what they can do with Atmos. And my ears are pretty shot. In fact, I need to set an appointment with an ear doctor. I'm wondering if I have some wax deep in there, because this ear is really much worse than this ear, and I'm like, why? So anyway, can we get 3 more likes? I don't know. Can we? Where are we at? Oh, 37, not bad. Oh, how would we peak at? Oh, we got 38 people. So yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to get. That would be almost 100% likes. Okay, so yeah, so I've got this. So I've created a Logic session with this, and I've got to save it now. Let's see, which one is this? This is the lobby cue. So I'm going to go. Here it is. Oh, it's right there. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to save. All right, saved. And I haven't done anything to it yet, but now I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to quit. I'm going to go here. Let's see. Oh, okay, right. I'm working my way from the bottom of the pile here. I'm going to open this with, oh no, here, there, okay. Open with, and what's the tempo on this? Open with Logic Pro. Oh. Same BPM theme as Mech. Okay, well, I have to look up. What's the tempo from Mech? That's the thing I don't know. But the beauty of, like, it happened about 5 years ago in Logic. If I click on the session, okay, so here's the one I did, the Mech. Okay, I can't say too much here. If I click on this, I can actually see the tempo. If I look really close, 111, is that right? All right. So now I can add the tempo in here and it should line up. 111, and that looks right. And then now I'm going to add 12 tracks to start with, electric guitar tracks. These 2 new character sets are not very acousticy, so I don't really have to worry about it. All right, so how long is this? I'm going to be working on this all week. Yeah. And I have to, the hard part is I have to go back and see what sounds I used on the previous, because the way they do the Apex thing is they have the main theme for the character, and then there's the lobby for the same character. You're dressed as that, you choose that character or whatever, and you go to the lobby, which is where you pick your guns and your armor and all that stuff, your hand grenades or whatever. And then they do the drop. What do they call the drop? The drop is called jump sequence. So you jump out of a plane and you're waiting. They're basically, what that is that's the loading. I think that's when they're loading the map of the game. And so you do that, and then there's the character select. Okay, so I guess once you got to, so there's a character. So all the things are like lobby, theme, victory and loss. So like when you lose, it's like wah wah. So I've got to create ways that says wah wah. And then there's the victory, and then there's the jump sequence and the character select. So those are in the lobby. So all those, it's like for every character there's like 6 different pieces of music, all with the same sonic fingerprint. So I got to keep tabs on what did I use. What I could probably do is maybe, like with this, it wouldn't be too hard to create. In fact, I may do this. I may create a template. If there's no MIDI, it's a lot easier in some ways. See, this has MIDI. Yeah, I mean, MIDI makes it easier too, because MIDI gives me all the information I need. Oh, what's that? Okay, so that's got MIDI. So all of them have MIDI. So I probably won't create a template, but I may. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll also do a screenshot. And I'll do a screenshot. In fact, I'll do that right now while I'm thinking of it. So let me save this one. All right, saving. This is another lobby cue. And let me go back, open up, where is it? Here. And I'm close. And I'm going to do a screenshot of all the sounds I use, the patches. And some of them are standard ones I use a lot, and some of them are newly created ones, so I may have to find them. But this way I can go, oh, okay, this is what I use. And it takes a while to load because I did so many tracks on this. But yeah, that's just this part of my day. You know, some of it, a lot of my day is spent file management. So it's like, it'd be great to have an assistant. Okay, so I can hide all of this. Let's see, not that. So I can hide all the ones that are not me. Okay, I didn't do anything there. So if I just do a screenshot, that doesn't tell me what I did using these, but it definitely tells me what sounds I used. It doesn't necessarily know, did I do a melody with this sound? Did I do an arpeggio thing? Did I do power chords with this sound? Usually it's obvious to me, but not necessarily. So now I'm going to open up the other one I worked on. So there were two that, we're doing 2 character sets right now. And let me save, let's see. Let me go, that was this, copy. All right, where's that? New. Oh, that's automatically to desktop. No. Okay. Oh, I got a quote that I mean a comment that let's see, let me just do this. Go like this. Paste. All right. Okay, there's that. And now I'm going to do the same thing here. Hide all of this. Okay, so this one was less, but I've got to stretch it out so I can actually see what I did. All right. And so this was the other, so I'm going to have to, sorry, I know this is so exciting. You guys are just talking to each other. You like Yamaha guitars? Yeah, good. Yamaha guitars are great. Sam. See you, Sam. Sam's already gone. Yeah, you guys, I'll go ahead and sign out because I don't think this is very exciting for you. Hey, good Matt. Of course, Matthew shows up, and then I'm signing off. Hi, Matthew. You might want to go back a little bit. I got a ton of work to do. I have to do for Apex Legends, the game, and oh shoot,